So what we're going to do is like this. Today, we're going to start baby steps from the beginning, because I find that if you skip certain inyonim when it comes to Smicha, you lose out in the end. So although some of the things might be poshut and obvious, right? Nevertheless, if you don't do it with the proper build-up, with the proper ladder to get to where we have to get to, and all the sugyas and all the inyonim, we end up skipping and jumping, and you slip in the end, and you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So once you learn this Gemara already, a little bit even, there's certain things that I'm going to say now that are going to be, hopefully to you, obviously dvarim pshutim, right? Okay. Nevertheless, I'm going to explain it a little bit with the svaras, so we can take it properly. And ein bes medrash b'lei chidush. I don't mean a chidush din, but something that you learn maybe that you didn't know. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Bittel. Okay, that's what we're starting from. The first Mishnah, tipas cholov, shnofel ala chaticha. If it's nois and tam, it makes the chaticha osir, says the Mishnah. If it's not nois and tam, the chaticha is kosher. By the way, how do you know if it gives tam? Pashup pshat. So Rashi tells us right away, what does it mean? Anyone see? What do you mean nois and tam? What does Rashi say? Shishim. Yeah, Rashi makes it simple. You don't need to actually taste it. If there's shishim, you assume there's no tam, says Rashi. If there is no shishim, you assume that there is tam. But that's not really what the Mishnah says. It says benois and tam. It's mashmara, you could actually taste it. So how do you taste it? Anyone can give a suggestion? Give it to a tinnik. Give it to a guy. Tinnik? A tinnik doesn't have to keep teira. And if it's a shegitz dik a tinnik, you can give it to a groiser shegitz. Give it to a tinnik shegitz, give it to an adult. No, you give it to a guy. The question is, do you trust the guy? That's a whole sugya that we're going to learn. If you can give it to a guy, do you trust a guy? But really, that's pashup pshat. You don't need shishim, according to most poskim. You can give it to a guy to taste. So when is shishim? If there's no guy, that's not the halacha. Don't paskin anything that we're talking about in the shiurim now. Anything. You have any shayla l'maisa? Come and ask me or someone else. Do not paskin, because we're learning this all theoretically. So basically, if there's no guy, the din is shishim. Okay, fine. And if it's shishim, so we say that it's what? Bottle. Right? That's what we're saying, right? Every kid knows what happens if tray falls into kosher. What's the din? It's bottle of shishim. That's every kid knows it. 60 times kosher. Okay. Where do we know it from? Rashi says from Yoreh De'ah, because the Torah says you cook by the Asham Nozir, Asham Etzorah. You cook the arm, the leg, the bones to the koyim with the rest of the behemoth, and the Chachamim checked with a measuring stick. There's exactly 60 times. Some say 100, depending which bones you count. Well, a kid said we know from the Gemara, the pasuk, the 60 works. Okay, beautiful. Everything fine. So now let me ask you a question differently. A piece of chazer treif, a piece of nevela. Let's call it nevela. I don't like to use chazer. It's nevela. It's easier for the context of most of the halachas to say nevela. What's nevela, by the way? What's nevela? When I say nevela, what does nevela mean? Animal that was not shechted. You go to ShopRite, a Pathmark, a Walmart, you buy a piece of flesh. It's beef. It's a kosher animal. It's not a treif animal. It's not a behemoth tmeya, right? It's not a behemoth tmeya. It's not a horse. It's not a pig. It's a kosher animal. It's just nevela. It wasn't shechted. So it has different halachas than a behemoth tmeya could be. Nevela, you bought by mistake a piece of flesh, fell into soup. Yeah, and there's 60. So what's the din? It's what? Bottle. So I could eat the treif?
If you can't tell.
Can't tell. Slow down. So let's just take it step by step. I said it's bottle. I said you could eat the treif. You said yes. You said no, but if you can't tell. What does it mean you can't tell? What did you mean when you can't tell?
If you can't tell which one it is, and yes, if you can see that.
If you have two pieces floating around, you don't know which one it is. It's kosher. You can eat them both. That's what you want to say. Maybe. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear you.
Can't see that this
Okay, so essentially what you're saying is the issue is not really bottle. It's not really bottle. If you see it and it's floating around, it's not bottle. Shai Zerkin said it is. You agree with yourself? Mm-hmm. Really? You think you could eat a piece of nevela because I have 60 in the water?
Yeah.
Why? Question your question. I know what I'm saying. You're answering based on what you think, which I get. Question yourself. Does that make any sense to you? Because a piece of nevela fell into water and the water 60 times, so the nevela became transformatively now kosher. A shot, they got an injection of
sure
kashrus.
There's other examples like that.
I'm talking about this one. Really?
I'm pretty sure. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Right, so that's probably because it's not. Because you're a smart guy, and if you can't think of it, probably it's not true. How could that be? That's kosher. What does that mean, Bechal? No way. There's no way, because you have a piece of basar nevela that fell into water that happens to be 60 times, that suddenly, boom, becomes kosher. So what are we talking about here? So what is bittul? That's where we're starting here. What is bittul? So I'm going to tell you what bittul is. Bittul b'shishim is not real bittul. We call it bittul, but it's not really. You know what real bittul would be? That you could eat the actual treif, a piece. Which is what Binyamin said. He might not be right, but what he said, he was saying epis on a kuda. He's actually wrong. You can't eat the piece. But let's say you would be able to eat the piece. That would be real bittul. So what is bittul b'shishim? Bittul b'shishim in simple English means the Isser cannot make the heter treif. That's all it means. When a piece of nevela falls into water, right? We're assuming that the nevela gives taste to the water. How is that? We're going to learn that throughout the whole year. Has to be hot, whatever. Those details we're going to learn. But let's assume that we're talking about a case that the basar nevela is for sure giving taste, substance, however you want to call tam, yeah, to the water. If you have 60, the water stays kosher. Basically, the bittul prevents the isur from affecting the water, the heter. That's all bittul b'shishim is. Does that make sense?
I mean, it in itself stays awesome.
It itself is not kosher. Doesn't become bottled. There's no such thing in the world. Nevela will stay nevela always. Doesn't make the nevela kosher. Bittul b'shishim doesn't mean you could eat the nevela. All it does is shishim means since I'm 60, there's not going to be tam from the isur in me, so I can eat myself. Whatever. Okay. So a piece of basar, you can eat the basar. So in the Mishnah, when the cholov falls on the basar, why is it bottled? Because the cholov dissolved. If there would be a piece of cheese or milk still sitting on top of the basar, you cannot eat that milk. You have to take it off. The basar that absorbed the cholov, that basar is kosher if you have 60. Because that's what bittul b'shishim really means. Bittul b'shishim just means that the heter, the isser, it's preventing the isser from asering the heter. That's all bittul b'shishim is. Put it into context. That's all it means. Shishim means that the heter doesn't become asr. It doesn't mean that the isser becomes mutter. It never means the isser becomes mutter. That's the whole nekuda of shishim. The isser is not noisin time with the heter. Now, if the isser dissolved and it's not here anymore, so then obviously you could eat it because there's no isser left. It spread equally and became batel b'shishim. Ask him. Makes sense so far? So what is real bittul then? So when do we ever have real bittul? Levi? Huh? No, it's the same thing. Liquids. It's like dissolving. He's on the right track. He's asking a good question. Liquids that fell in milk that fell into chicken soup, yeah, the marshal, yeah. So then it's bottle b'shishim. But again, the milk didn't become mutter really. It just spread equally, so you could eat the chicken soup. But real bittul would be that the isur becomes mutter. How's that possible?
When you have don't you have a similar thing by Demai and Tevel if something falls in and you don't know if it is, then or that's
maybe all the information that you have floating around all your different tracks in your head from everything you learned in Torah, we're going to make it now. We're going to put it in the right categories, okay? So the real bittul means that the isur can become mutter, and that is when you have roiv. How do I know that? Torah says acharei rabim lahatos, the majority always wins. Pashup Pshat, majority winning, it means that by a din Torah, you have two dayanim say chayev, one dayan says potter. Who do you go with? The two that say chayev. Nothing, it didn't affect the guy that says potter, it's just that we paskin chayev. But real bittul means that they're transformed. It's one unit of bezdin, of chayev. They all sign chayev. So when you have roiv, the isser becomes kosher. Now you might all attack me. Well, is shishim also roiv? Duh, right? It's a lot more than roiv. It's actually 60. You know what roiv is? 1.1. That's roiv. 1 poisla drop is already roiv, right? So what in the world am I talking about? This makes no sense. So now I'm going to explain it to you. Remember, when an isser falls into heter, I don't have any question about the isser. I'm not even calling the rav about the isser. The only time you would is if you don't know the halacha, so you'd think shishin makes the isser mutter. But in reality, when you call the rav, what are you asking him? A piece of nevela fell into my soup. What's your question? About the nevela or about the soup? What'd you do with the nevela? Probably threw it out, I'm sure, right? As soon as it fell in, you probably picked it up, threw it in the garbage. You're never asking about the nevela, especially if you know the halacha that the nevela is anyways treif, right? But what if your question is talking about the nevela? Give me an example of why you would ask the rav about the nevela. Maybe it's kosher.
Fell into a pot of other meat.
Why pot?
That's where you have a lot.
But why would you say pot? Why not on the table? I mean, why pot? I have a few pieces of meat on the table. I don't know which one is kosher, which one is treif. So what's my question really about? It's about the treifa meat. Can I eat them? Maybe I'm actually eating the treifa one. That's a different shaila. Whichever one is kosher, it's for sure 100% kosher. Whichever one is treif, it's 100% treif. By the soup, right? Even the kosher might be treif. Why? Because it absorbed tam. When a piece of nevela falls into soup, my question is on the soup, the kosher might have become treif. But when I have, let's say, two pieces on the table, two. One is kosher, one is treif. I don't know which one it is. Loshna Aposkim is called Eina Makiroi. Eina Makiroi, I don't know which one it is, correct? What's my shaila really about? Can I eat them? Because maybe I'm eating the treif. But there's certainly one kosher. Now, if they were hot and touching each other, suddenly what happens now?
Okay.
They're both a problem. Because whichever one is treif, it touched the other one, made the other one also treif, possibly, right? Unless you have shishim, whatever, we'll learn about that, right? But they're not touching each other. The bechlal not touching each other. The two separate pieces of meat on the table. You shikse bought her own chicken meat from ShopRite, and she came to the house. The betos opened the two meats. She didn't realize it was the first day on the job. You come running in, two meats. Why is the second one? Yeah, I bought for myself. I was going to cook it for myself, unless you caught her in time. But at the end of the day, now you have two pieces on the table, and you don't know which one is asr, which one is mutter. Eina makiroi. That's a shaila now about the treifa piece. What's the din? I passed already. What did I tell you before? Roiv. If you have three pieces, it's kosher. Two against one, they're all kosher. Don't pass it. Do not eat them. We'll learn about that in mitzvah. They're all kosher. Acharei rabim lahatois. You follow? This is real bittul. Because what happened now? The treif became what? Kosher. Not mutter. Kosher.
What's the difference?
It's taka kosher. Mutter would mean you have to eat it maybe bezeh chazeh. Because you could eat each one, assuming that the other one is the treif one. Minatayra, you could eat them all in one shot. 3 pieces of salami, one salami is treif, 2 are kosher. Make a beautiful sandwich in one shot, go for us. That's what the Rosh actually baskets. Yeah, it's kosher, 100% kosher. That's a real bittul. What happened over here is you took a piece of isur. You're not allowed to do this lechatchila, obviously. Or you also can't close the light and say, sorry, I don't know which one is the isur, and start eating them. Open the light and find out which one is the isur. If you can tell, obviously, yeah. Or if there's someone that knows, you got to find out. But let's assume Yitaki can't find out. Min HaTorah, it's bottle b'reiv, acharei, rabim, lahatois. That's bittul. Do not confuse this case of Eina Makiroi to Shishim. Shishim is not a case of Eina Makiroi. Shishim is a question if Nevela fell into my pot of soup. Did it affect my soup? Answer. It depends. If there's Shishim, no, because there's no tam. There's no Shishim. It affected my soup. My soup is treif. But the Isur, that was never the question. It's treif anyways. But when it's Eina Makiroi, if I have 2 pieces, yeah, right? So then it's also, there's no roiv. If you have 3 pieces, then there's roiv, so it's kosher. The name of this kind of taruvis, the second one, has a name. What's the name? I'm going to test you. You're sitting here. Because you knew your stuff backwards and forwards years ago. Huh? What? No. I didn't tell you it's min b'mina. It could be. Huh?
Chad betray?
No. That's not the taruvis. That's the result. The result is chad betrei. There's a different way this taruvis is called. And I'm going to tell it to you now. And it has to become second nature that when you hear these words, that's what it means. Why am I telling you? Because it could be confusing. If you translate them into English, it's going to mean something else. Yovesh b'yovesh. Translate yovesh b'yovesh. Yeah, but that's not what it means. Because I'll prove it to you. What if you have 3 pots of soup sitting on the table, and one is treif and 2 are kosher? Is it okay? Also, it's not dry. The taruvis yovesh b'yovesh means einoi makire. Why is it called yovesh b'yovesh? Because the isur is not affecting the heter. 3 different pots of soup is yovesh b'yovesh. Whichever pot of soup is treif, it's not affecting the other pots, right? So by definition, whenever you hear taruvis yovesh b'yovesh, it'll take you time because you're going to naturally translate yovesh b'yovesh into dry. That's how you translate because you learn Lashon Kodesh. So you're going to say it means dry, but that's totally not what it means. It doesn't mean 2 dry things that touch each other because if they touch each other, you got a problem if it's hot. It means a taruvis that I don't know which one is the yisur. That's all it means. Taruvis yovesh b'yovesh. So I have to fight shis. Taruvis yovesh b'yovesh is bottle in how much?
3.
Roiv. If you say chad betrei, you might think you need double. It's true, you need chad betrei. But really it's roiv. So if it's 2 pieces, what do you need? 3. You don't need 4, 5. Okay, 3 against it. So you have a taruvis yovesh b'yovesh.
3 against 1?
No, 2 against 1.
Right.
It's roiv. Roiv could be bigger also. Problem is maybe the big one is the yisur. We're not going to go into that right now. Why can't you have 1 small one and 1 big one? So the big one is already roiv? Because maybe the big one is the yisur. You have no idea. Right?
So why about shishim do you need?
Shishim, because it's a different shilah. It's tam. It's not. We're not. This is the whole nekuda. Bittul b'shishim. You need to understand this before you walk out of today's shir. Shishim was never a shilah of being mevatel the yisur. The yisur is treif. Can I eat the heter? Well, does it taste yisur? Yes or no? I don't know. Go to a guy. You don't have a guy. What do? Shishim. It's not a shilah of bittul. It's a different question. A taruvis of shishim we call it taruvis lach. I don't want to call it lach balach or yovesh balach for other reasons because they mean something else when we're going to learn Shulchan Aruch later. So the taruvis I'm going to use today, the general term. Taruvis lach means that the isur is affecting the heter, it's giving it tam. So what's the bittul by taruvis lach? Shishim. A taruvis yovesh b'yovesh, there's no effect on the isur of the heter. So what's the problem? I don't know which one is the isur. That the problem is me. right? The problem is I don't know. It's a gavra. I have no idea which one is the Isser, which one is the Heter. So that's called a taruvis. Yovesh biyovesh. Yovesh biyovesh is botel b'roif. And that's real bittel, by the way. That's real bittel. The other one is fake bittel. The Isser doesn't make the Isser osir. It stays Heter. The Heter stays mutter and the Isser stays osir. Because I have shishim, nothing happened. Nothing's changed. The Torah didn't make any changes. But Yovesh biyovesh, taruvis Yovesh biyovesh, makes major changes. The Isser becomes kosher. Min Torah. Doesn't mean you should do that. Again, don't paskin. Disclaimer, do not paskin anything based on this shiur. So if you have 3 pieces of salami and one is treif and 2 are kosher, don't eat them. Yes?
But once you have 60, right, there's no time. So this piece of meat that had milk is okay, right? It's okay to eat.
Yeah, because the milk dissolved. If the milk would be be'ain, you could not eat it. As the Gemara says. You're not being clear what you're talking about. Well, I'm going to do that in a second now. You didn't express yourself what you wanted, but I suspected what you mean, so now I'm going to go do that now. Now I'm going to show you, I could have in one story a taruvis lach and a taruvis yavish biyavish. Okay? One story. Woman calls the Rav, Rabbi, oh my gosh, a treif of meatball just fell into my pot of soup. What do I do? Rav says, do you have 60? 1 second. Yeah, I have 60. Okay, take the treif of meatball, chuck it in the garbage, soup is kosher. I don't know which is the treif of meatball, she says. I got other meatballs there, I don't know which one is the treif of meatball. So now we have certainly another shayla here. In the same story, right? I have 2 problems. Problem number 1, the Isra was affecting the heter, took care of that. How did I take care of that? By having 60. So all the meatballs, kosher ones, plus the soup are all okay, because they didn't derive tam. Now I have a new shayla. The shayla is on the meatballs or on the whole soup? Only the meatballs. I don't know which one it is. Now, Paskin, what's the Rav going to answer? It depends. If you have only 2, what's it in? Throw out the meatballs. Both of them. The soup is kosher, not a problem. If you have 3 meatballs, what's it in? Based on this year, today, everything's good. So I showed you, this is what you really meant, right? That you could have in the same case, you could have a shayla of lach, you could also have a shayla of taruvis yavish biyavish. So far, so good? So, the Mishnah, tipas cholav, the falls on a chaticha, that's a shayla of the yavish biyavish or lach. Lach. The cholav is giving tam into the chaticha. Correct? Later, the Gemara says that according to Rav, once the chaticha becomes aser, it asers all the other chatichas, which we'll discuss later, today or not, or later, because it's min b'mina. That's a shayla of lach or shayla of yavish biyavish. Also lach. It's not because I don't know which one it is. It's lach. Somehow one chaticha is affecting all the other chatichas. Since Rav holds min b'mina is never bottled, so then even if you have 1,000,000 pieces, it's never bottled. Just by the way, the Farshim say, when Rav says that min b'mina, for example, is afilu be'elef le bottle, it doesn't mean millions. They write, how do we know that? The Darkei Tshuva brings from Poskim an interesting question. There are certain things that everybody agrees are never bottled. For example, what do we all know that's never bottled? Chametz, right? Avodah Zarah. So he says, if the din would be that Avodah Zarah is never ever bottled, if one goy, he says, in Frankfurt, throws Avodah Zarah in the river, so all the cities that go along the river, from the Rhine or whatever, he writes, all down the river, the stream in Europe, nobody could have hanoah from the water forever, never and ever, forever. Because it's, I feel, elef, alfei, alofim, v'riboy devovis, tens and millions, right? And I would ask the same question. If a goy is going on a boat on Pesach and he drops a loaf of bread into the ocean and it stayed there for 24 hours, so now officially the bread spread, so it spreads everywhere. So you shouldn't be able to drink water in the whole city of New York. If someone in the lake, upstate New York, wherever we get our water supply, the reservoir, there's bread in there, Pesach, right? At some point, when it's millions, it's bottled. What is that point? We don't know. But when it's billions, it's bottled. Okay? I don't know. That's a Maimon Amuzgir. Okay, so let's go back now. So now we understand. Okay, we know what the bittul b'shishim really is. Essentially, it's not bittul; it's making, it's preventing the isur from making your kosher treif. That's what it is. And we understand yavish b'yavish. That's real bittul, which means the taruvis is never a shayla on the heter; it's a shayla on the isur. I don't know where the isur is. It's also known as einay makiroi. Again, it doesn't have to be dry. It could be 3 pots of soup or 2 pots of soup. It could be on the table, as long as the isur and the heter are not affecting each other. The din is bittul b'roif. If you have chad b'chad, 2 pieces, it's also. Okay. Similarly, you could have the same shayla in the same story. You could have a Isser fell at the heter and you have shishim at the same time. I also have a yavish b'yavish question. I got only 2 pieces or I got 5 pieces and I have no idea which one it is. So what's the Rav going to tell you have to do? The soup might be kosher. The pieces might be treif. Okay, so far so good. Shelve this. There's not necessarily going to be a connection today with everything that I'm going to say. This is just basic Yesoidus information to help us understand Yoreh De'ah. It just makes life a lot easier when we internalize these in Yonim. Next. Isser falls into Heter. Now what I'm going to say, a lot of it you figured out already. By just by learning the Gemara and the Rashi. Or by osmosis. Isser falls into Heter. And there's no Shishim. Right? What's it din? It's treif, right? Min ha-Torah or min ha-Rabbanon? Between?
Rav and Rav.
Well, Rav. Why Rav?
Abaye and Rav.
Abaye and Rav. That's what I wanted to hear. This is time of Olema Moshe. This is the first sugya in the Gemara. Does the Torah really care if you only taste Isser? The fact that you need Shishim, is that min ha-Torah or min ha-Rabbanon? That's the question. Right? That's the question.
They both say that.
No. Basar Bechalav, they both say that I said. I asked you about Isser. Ba'alma is not Basar Bechalav. I said Isser fell into water. The heter, hot soup. I didn't say Basar Bechalav. Ba'alma, what does Ba'alma mean? Anything other than Basar Bechalav.
Yeah.
Regular Isurim, you need Shishim. Min ha-Torah or min ha-Rabbanon. Abaye says it's min ha-Torah, and Rava says min ha-Rabbanon. So if you go with the rule that you learned in Mesechtas Chullin when you were in Cheder, yeah? First year you learned Gemara, you learned Elam Metzias, and you right away you learned the halacha of Yerushalayim Midas. Remember who's the halacha like? Normally Abaye or Rava? Rava except for? Yal Kegam. What's Yal Kegam? And remember?
Yerushalayim Das, it's in the Shlomafreya. I don't know the Lamed.
Lechi Ayimid Meyelov, Dushim Mesurim Mabiyah, Giledaita Begita, and Mavoi. No? What is it? Echal Velas L'Teyavin. Okay. Echal Velas L'Teyavin. Kegam. Mumar Echal Velas L'Teyavin. Correct. Except for all those cases, the halacha is always like very good. Halacha is like Rava. So if you take this Gemara at face value, Abaye holds Tam by regular Yisurim is Ben Atera, and Rava holds the Rabbanan. What should the halacha be? The Rabbanan. Correct? Indeed, Rashi Paskins like that, by the way. This sugi we're going to learn in Tarubis. We're not going to learn it here, but just mentioning it because we're learning it here. Rashi Taka says, anytime an Isser falls into Heter, if it's not Basar Bechalav, the fact that you need Shishim is only B'derabbanan, which means if you have a suffix Shishim, what's the din? Sveika Derabbanan? L'kula. According to Rashi, I don't know, Rabbi, if there's Shishim. No problem. As you can eat Gesundheit. That's according to Rashi. Look at Tosfos, the small Tosfos. Rava Amar was a small little Rava. I don't know what the Dibra Maskal, it's small. Amar Rava, what does they say? Dichuye ba'almo. Rava really agrees to Abaye. He doesn't like the way he figures it out. Abaye figures it out from Basar Bechalav. Rava says, he can't figure it out Basar Bechalav. But in reality, you're right. I just learned it from somewhere else. What do Tosfos really do over here? It's paskening like who? Like Rava, but Rava really holds? Abaye. Just like Abaye, that it's min ha-Torah. So now, according to Tosfos, there's no machloikis la'alocha. So when I asked you the question, it was just a test question. It's not what I wanted to talk about. And if Isser falls in that and there's no shishim, it's treif. Rashi holds the halacha, it's only going to be treif midrabbanon. And Tosfos says it's min ha-Torah.
Where do you see from that Rashi holds that's on there?
You don't. You taka don't.
So
How do I know it? It's a different Rashi that I learned that tells me that. I just know the other Rashi. I'm older, not smarter. I'm just older than you. So maybe I figured out. No, Rashi. So you do it. Rashi's not here. It's Rashi in Perigid Anoshe. Could be Rashi at the end of the sugi here. Yeah, Rashi passes like Tam Ki Iker the Rabbanon. It's also known here. They call it time of V'loy Moshe, also known as Tam Ki Iker. That you have to take care of the tam, make sure there's no tam, just like you can't eat the ikir, just like you can't eat the piece of nevela, you can't eat its tam also. So it's a shaila, tam ki ikir. If someone asks you, learning Yoreh De'ah, so tell me about tam ki ikir, that's what he wants to know. We're going to learn it in Tarubah, it's not here. Tam ki ikir deraisa or derabbanan. But no matter what, either way, the halacha is like Tosfos. Unfortunately for us, right? The halacha is like Tosfos in this case. Rashi, by the way, passes like
for the test.
what?
Makes it for the test.
Yeah, but there's other problems. Rashi passes like Rabbi Yehuda, min b'mina is never bottle. Fortunately for us, we don't hold of Rashi. We hold it is bottle. Min b'mina. Okay? Otherwise, like I always tell Bachrim, a guy calls the Rav. Isser fell into Heta. Did Rav ever ask if it's mina or eina mina? Ever? You ever heard of that? You ask if it's shishim. You don't ask if it's mina or eina mina. If you're Rashi the Einakul, and you pass him like your Zayda, every time the Rav calls, you call the Rav's always going to ask you, well, was it mina or was it eina mina? Because if it's minoi, I don't care how much you have, it's always usher. That's what Rabbi Yehuda hold. And Rebbe. A nest that we hold like Tosfos, yeah, for this part, and we hold that mina is also batal b'shishim. So you never have to ask, it's the same shishim. Okay. And by the way, we're going to learn a lot. Everything is details. According to Rav and Rashi, when you say min b'minoi, what is min b'minoi? What is min b'minoi, by the way? How do you view things that are min b'minoi? There's so many different options to make two things the same. So we'll discuss it. Okay, let's continue. Isser found the hete. This was all a side point. I do that just to give you more information and to test your reflexes. And there's no shishim, so it's treif. According to Rashi, midrabbanan. According to Tosfos, which is the halacha, it's also minat teira. Maskim, I have a chkira for you. I have this bottle of soup that Isser fell in, and there's no shishim. I took the Isser, I threw it out, but it gave tam, so it's treif. And I take a spoon, and I drink it. So, what did I do wrong? Is the reason I can't drink it because in every spoon there's a little bit of Isser, which I was not mevatel because I don't have shishim, so I can't drink it? Or did the whole water also become treif? So when I drank the spoon, instead of eating a fraction of Isser, I ate a whole spoonful of Isser, teaspoon. That's my chakira. When you drank the teaspoon, did you drink only a 40th of a teaspoon of Isser or a whole teaspoon of Isser? And I'm going to translate the question in other words. If poison fell into water, how do you say, fatal poison, and I drink a teaspoon of water that has the poison, so I died, right? Why did I die? Did I die because I drank a 40th of a teaspoon of poison, or did I die because I drank a teaspoon of poison? What's your answer to me? Who cares, right? Because you're dead. It's a stupid chakira. You know how to drink it. According to Tosfos, right? Okay, no Malkus today. It's not enough community for Malkus, but you're close. So the shaila is, why can't you eat each spoon? Because you're eating within it a little bit of Yisur, or did the whole spoon become Asr? The short answer is, no difference if you're drinking the spoon. Question is, if you want to add more water to dilute it and make it kosher, how much you have to add? With the poison, let's say. You didn't drink the poison, but Hashem is still alive, right? But you want to be able to drink this. So how much more water do you have to add to make the poison edible? If you learn like the first way, in the spoon there's only a drop of poison. Now poison is bottled in Elef, let's say. So add till you got Elef, and now you could drink it, right? But if you learn that the whole water became poison, yeah? So how much do you have to add? 1,000 times the whatever it fell into. Correct? Same thing with Isser Heter. If Isser fell into Heter, and there's no Shishim, let's say it fell into 40. According to the first Oifen, how much more water can I pour in to make it mutter? From 40 to 60, how much? 20. But if I say the whole 40 became Musr, what do I need? 60 times the 40, which is how much? Somebody knows math, went to school. What? It could be, it's 2,400. I don't know. You think I know? I didn't prepare.
2,400, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You say, yeah, you know math. You went to school.
You take away the zeros, you add the zeros.
It's too complicated for me. 60 times 40 is 2,400, yeah. Yeah, so you need 2,400. By the way, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. It's also to be mevatal isur lechatchila. That's a side point. This is all theoretical. It happened by itself. Somebody didn't know the halacha. Someone added water. So how much did he have to add to make it mutter? No, you can't trick the Eibishter. No, I'm just telling you should know. No, but you should know. If you're ever going to call the Rav and you're not going to tell the Rav the truth, don't bother calling. It's like going to your doctor and not telling him the truth. You'll die from the wrong medicine. Don't bother. I always tell people, if you want a heter, call me first. I'll tell you what to tell the Rav for anything, including and to get a heter. If you're going to lie, but if you're going to lie, don't bother calling, right? We're calling the Rav for the Eibishter knows the truth. Okay, bottom. So you can't do that lechatchila, right? But if it happened, let's assume you hold that you're allowed to do lechatchila. We're talking theoretical here. Yeah, he decided Malkus. That would be Mashiach will come. That'd be an issue. So how much do you need to be mevatalit? Do you need to add 60 against the whole 40? Or do you add only 20? Okay, which one makes sense? The first oifen that you only have to add 20, or adding 60, 2,400? Which one makes sense? You say 20. Does everybody agree? But when I ask you a question, the worst is you'll be wrong. It's not the end of the world.
What's the scenario again?
Again, Isser fell into 40. Which one makes more sense? To add another 20 or to need 2,400 to make it kosher? You say 2,400.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you why.
Because you said that the whole thing
Does that make sense? I didn't ask you what it says. I asked you what makes sense. Does it make any sense to you?
Without the...
Does it make sense to you? Yeah, if I tell you the halach is you need against 2,400, now I'm asking you, does it make sense?
Yes.
Why? So I'm challenging you. Tell me why.
The whole thing came today.
Why? So what does that mean? Since when does water become treif? What does that even mean? Since when does water become treif? I can tell you water, don't drink it, because in it there's poison. I mean, unless the water is rotten. Yeah, whatever. How's water treif? Put it through a filter and purify it. Like, what does that even mean? How does heter become osir? Like, I never heard such a thing in my life. Why would it make sense? You all follow what I'm saying? You're all right. You're wrong. At least in my opinion. I didn't say the halacha, you're wrong. You're right, la halacha. But I asked what makes sense. Sense? There's no such thing has kosher becoming treif? We found out that treif could become kosher, right? If you have roiv. How does kosher become treif? Maybe if you have roiv yisur, maybe 2 pieces of treif with 1 piece of kosher. That's a whole chiyuv in the poskim. But let's talk because of tam. Water became contaminated. So the water is contaminated, or the water has contamination. Don't drink it because you'll die. Say that, but the water didn't become treif. So which one makes sense?
Well, depends which one there's more of.
Say that we're talking about there's more kosher.
Yes.
And you have 40. That was the case. You have 40. You're all right. You said add 20. It's true. That's the one that makes the most sense. Doesn't make any sense to require 2,400. Why? Even with the poison, by the way. The water didn't become poison, I'm telling you. Unless it's concentrate. That's a whole different conversation. Because concentrate, you know how concentrate works. They take out the original water. So really, orange juice has water. They take out the water and they left the concentrate. So big shaila in poskim if shishim works with concentrate. Because it goes back to its original state. Okay, that's a different conversation.
Can I ask a different question about concentrate?
Huh?
If you catch the water that's being the evaporated from the orange juice, is that mepedis or mine?
Good, it's a whole shaila in poskim. It's Pashas may pay this. But anyways, shaila mecholov, you have the same thing. Okay, so let's go back. Which one makes more sense, we said? 20, correct? Give me one case where the second one makes sense.
Salt.
No. That the water should become salt? Why? You're telling me it's a different number.
More.
Say that. But when it affects it, why did the water become salt? It tastes salty. Don't eat it. But the water is not salt. I'm telling you, water is not salt. What is water? Salt is salt. Okay, it affects the water. Don't drink the water because it's gonna make you thirsty. Give me one case.
Rave, treif, yavish, yavish?
No. I didn't even hear what you said. The answer is no. At least that's not what I want. Basar Bechalav. Let's make it simple. All right. The Torah says you can't eat Basar Bechalav, yeah? And you have a piece of basar and a drop of milk falls. There's 40 times basar against the milk, right? Yeah? What became asr here? It's the milk that's asr? Did the basar become asr? What became asr here?
Meat.
The meat. Because the Torah said, don't mix milk and meat. In other words, if you go back to what I said a minute ago, why doesn't it make sense to say what you said? I'll tell you why. The Torah said don't eat nevela. The Torah never said don't drink water. The Torah didn't talk about water. The Torah spoke about nevela. Now, if nevela falls into water, you can't drink the water because essentially what are you eating also? Nevela. But by basar b'chalav, what did the Torah say not to eat? The basar that has in it chalav. So what happened to the basar now? Instead of being mutter now, what happened to the basar? It became asr. So now, how much more do I need to be mevatel this? Adding what? Another 20? Or you need 2,400? Because that's the isr. That's the nevela now. That's the nevela. The Torah says don't eat this. Whereas nevela is just a borrowed term, Hashem hamushal, for anything that's essentially asr, right? What's the nevela by basar b'chalav? This basar, the gatam chalav. That's what Hashem said not to do, not to eat, right? So for sure over there you need 2,400. Adding another 20, not going to cut it because the basar's treif already. Does that make sense? Okay, this idea you all figured out already from the Gemara. It's called chaticha nasis nevela. What does that mean? Chaticha means kosher. That's all it means. It's just a borrowed term for kosher. Became nevela. We're just using the word nevela. Nevela is also a borrowed word for isur. It's as if it would say chaticha nasis isur. The whole spoon becomes treif. Which does not make sense. I disagree with you still. Maybe you hopefully agree with me now. Does not make any sense. The only time it makes sense is where? So far? By basar b'chalav. There it makes sense. I don't even know how you learn otherwise. It's mashma from the Gemara that there are opinions that don't say chaticha nasis nevela basar b'chalav. I don't know how that works. What was the Torah talking about? Hashem said, don't eat that. What? Don't eat what? The basar that got chalav and the chalav that got basar. That's what Hashem said not to do. That's the isur. So once it became asur, you need to be mevatel the isur. So you got to add 2,400 if you want to be mevatel it. Correct? So far, so good. So now we have a little klorkat.
There's a tie-in over here.
Nothing for now. We're not going to cover every single detail here. The Gemara sort of connects the two. If you say chtichanas is the velos, even if you get out the milk, it's still going to stay osir. For that, if you want to have real information, learn the whole round, which we'll hopefully discuss in the next year. But that's not for now. Go back. So again, isur falling into heter. Okay, the chkira was when you're not allowed to eat it. Is it because you're eating a little bit of isur, or did the whole spoon become osir? The short answer, what makes sense is, okay, the second oifen would be called chatichanas nevela. The whole water became osir. The answer would be no way. Why would you say chatichanas nevela? Doesn't make any sense. So I would tell you, no, you don't say chatichanas nevela. Where would you say chatichanas nevela? Basar b'chalav. Basar b'chalav, it's natural. The lashon haposkim is, you'll see it in Shulchan Aruch is shneim heter. Because they're both heter, that's why you say ch'tichan asas nevela. That's not what it means. It's not hocus pocus. There's a svara bedover. Since shneim heter, and together they create something new, right? So because they create something new, that's the isur. As opposed to nevela falling into water, there's nothing new created here. It's the nevela that I'm not allowed to eat, and wherever it is, I'm not allowed to eat it. Say it. Don't fell into water. Don't drink it. All right. So it sounds to me, from what I'm telling you and what I'm hearing myself say, is that by Basar Bechalav we would say chatichan asas nevela, correct? By Shari Surim, right? What would the paskin halacha? You don't say chatichan asas nevela. All right. Make sense so far? Okay, that's what makes sense. There are many Rishonim that paskin chatichan asas nevela by Shari Surim as well, not because it makes sense. Don't think that they say it because it makes sense, even though you were correct. Although I don't know where you found it. Maybe in Tosfos. Tosfos says the Gemara must talk about Basar Bechalav. Where did you see in the Gemara Shari Surim? Tosfos says it. And Tosfos on the base. Ali ba'alma chatichan asas nevela b'drabanan. Tosfos says that's where you see it. But in the Gemara is talking about Basar Bechalav. But it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. So why would you say chatichan asas nevela b'Shari Surim? The Chacham had a meeting and they decided to make a gzeira, whatever, gzeira, I don't know, what a different reason. Not because it makes sense, because they decided to secure certain situations. We'll learn about it. I'm not hiding information from you, just we'll get there. To secure certain situations, the Chacham made certain gzeiras and they decided to say chatichan asas nevela. Not because it makes sense, or because we find in one place the Torah obviously says it, which is Basar Bechalav. So the Chacham decided to extend it to other places, like they always do, correct? But actually, this machloikis, or this shaila, whether you say chatichan asas nevela b'shari surim, is really a machloikis between Davidov, Menachem, between the machloikis, whether you say chatichan asas nevela b'shari surim, is really a machloikis between who? Yeah, but in the Rishonim, who is it? Rabbeinu Ephraim and Rabbeinu Tam. You need to know this, going from the beginning. Rabbeinu Ephraim and Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Ephraim paskins that you only say chatichan asas nevela by Basar Bechalav. That's it, nowhere else. B'shari surim, you don't say chatichan asas nevela. That's shita Rabbeinu Ephraim, and that's the shita of the Beis Yosef and the Mechaber, as we'll see later. All the Tzfardim, that's what they paskin, that you don't say chatichan asas nevela b'shari surim. However, Rabbeinu Tam and his slew of Rishonim, including the Ramah, the Ashkenazim, we paskin not because it makes sense, because that's the fact. That's what the Chachamim did. And we do say chatichan asas nevela b'shari surim. Now, how do we know what the Chachamim did? By the way, the Ramah knows what the Chachamim did. Rabbeinu Tam knows what the Chachamim did. The short answer is yes. Literally, there are different Gemaras and Yerushalmis where some seem to say chatichan asas nevela, some seem not to say chatichan asas nevela. So what do? Rabbeinu Ephraim picks the ones that say you don't, and the ones that say you do, he answers. Rabbeinu Tam just the other way around. I pick the ones that say you always say chatichan asas nevela. The ones that say you don't. They mean hacha b'may askinon, which is Deran brings it bariches. There's no secrets here. But basically, it's a huge machloikis whether you say chatichan asas nevela b'shari surim or not. Correct? You follow? Rabbeinu Ephraim and the Sfardim, the Mechaber and the Sfardim do not say chatichan asas nevela. Rabbeinu Tam and the Ashkenazim do say chatichan asas nevela. And this is very negei la halacha l'maisa. What happens? You go to the store, you buy a product because you thought it has a hechsher, because the same company also has certain things that have a hechsher. You come home, you put it in your soup, there's no hechsher. There's no shishim in your soup against what you put in. But you don't know how much treif is in this product, right? You call up the OU and you say, how come you don't give a hechsher on this? Oh, this? Because this is treif. What's the percentage? They tell you the percentage. So if you're a Sfardi, your soup could be kosher sometimes, because you could have shishim. Your soup, together with the percentage of the product against the isser that's in the product, could make it kosher. If you're Ashkenazi, you're stuck. It's treif. Because since we say chatichan asas nevela, the whole product became nevela, so you need shishim in your soup against everything you put in. Bezel, done. You don't have shishim, so it's also.
What's this for again to say? What's the logic behind chatichan asas nevela?
There is no logic. It's a gzeira midrabanan.
What I'm saying about Basar Bechalav.
Oh, because that's the isur. What do you mean nasa nevela? What would be the isur? Only the milk? If milk falls into meat, that's 40 times, yeah?
Well, just that part of the...
No, it fell everywhere in the meat. We're talking about, we know it went through the whole meat. How do we know? We'll learn later Shulchan Aruch. We know. I can tell you every time when Isser touches Heta how far it went. I mean, not scientifically, I can tell you from halacha. Halacha tells us how far it goes. We're talking about a case that it went into the whole meat, yeah? So the whole meat became the Isser. That's what Hashem was talking about. That's the nevela. So you need to be mevatel it. So if that basar fell into water, you need shishim against 2,400 times the milk, yeah? Which is 60 times the whole basar, yeah? That makes sense. Basar Bechalav makes sense. But Shari Surim, it doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. So Alamai the Chacham made a Gzeira. Did they make the Gzeira? I don't know. So Achloikis Rishonim. Bottom line. Did they make the Gzeira b'Shari Surim? I don't know. If you turn to Tosfos and Amud Beis in the top, look at Tosfos. In Nidality, Kuf Ches Amud Beis. You can read together Tosfos. First set of wide lines. In Nidality. Huh? Koshlity. What does it say? Koshlity. Read it. Vahaloi. I want Vahaloi. Vahaloi. Read slowly. Vahaloi ba'alma. What does it say? Chaticha midra. Stop. That shit is a Tosfos against Rabbeinu Ephraim. He holds Vahaloi ba'alma, meaning other than Basar Bechalav as well. Chaticha nasas nevela midrabanon. Correct? I have a question for you guys now. According to Tosfos, if Isser fell into Heter and there's no Shishim, is it also Menatayra or Midrabanon? I'll ask it again. Isser fell into Heter and there's no Shishim, is it also Menatayra or Midrabanon? No, Shari Surim. Menatayra. Tosfos holds Tam Ki Iker is Deraisa. The Nasa Nevela is a Derabanon. The fact that I have to have 2,400 to make it kosher, that's a Derabanon. Menatayra, add 20 more, you make it kosher. But this before I add, it's also Menatayra according to Tosfos. Because the Paskins that Abaya and Rava both hold, Tam Kiker is the Heraisa. So don't get confused by what Tosfos says. Yeah, the Nevela part is the Rabbanon. The fact that the Isser Pasha grew. What does Tichanasas Nevela really mean? The Isser grew. Up to how many times could it grow? 59.9. The minute the 60 it's kosher, right? It could grow to 59.9. So if an Isser fell into something that has 59.9, the Isser just grew 59.9 times. And now you need 3,600, yeah? 60 times 60 is 3,600 minus a drop. You're the one who figured out 2,400.
Yeah, no, it's easy.
60 times 60 is pretty easy too.
60 times 60.
You can drop to zeros. You said I didn't tell you how to do it. You were the one.
60 times 60.
Where's Shishim Pam Shishim?
What?
Where's Shishim Pam Shishim? Where's Shishim Pam Shishim? I'm just testing you. You gotta relearn this stuff. Okay. Oh, Tippas Chav Shalfak Derim Bachutz. Can I get the Reikon? Okay. Now, Nachzil in Yonenu. Yeah? So now we figured out, what do we figure out? We figured out Taruvas Lach. We figured out Taruvas Yavish B'Yavish. We also figured out the whole concept of Chaticha Nasas Nevela, which means that the Isser grows. We also mentioned Tam Ki Iker La'alocha Tosfos says Deraisa. So if Isser falls into Heter and you don't have Shishim, you can't eat that pot Minat Torah. But how much Minat Torah do you need to add? According to everybody, Minat Torah, B'Shari Surim, 20. Tosfos holds, Rabbeinu Tam holds, Ramah holds, Ashkenazim hold. Then in order to make it mutter, you have to add 2,400 because it became Nevela also Midrabanan. And Rabbeinu Ephraim and the Ramchaber and B'S Yosef, they hold, no, you only have to add another 20 if it happened by itself. Basar Bechalav, piece of basar that became asr from chalav falls into water. How much you eat against the chalav? How many times the chalav you need? 2,400. Because for sure it becomes Nevela Minat. So far so good? Yeah? Alright. Next. We're going to move on. If you hold Chaticha Nasas Nevela B'Shari Surim, now let's do this. Now we're going to learn Shtikl Gemara. Gemara says Amarav, yeah? What does Gemara say? Amarav? Kivan she, what does it say? Kivan she nasan tam b'chaticha, what does it say? Amarav, Kivan she nasan tam b'chaticha, let's learn a piece of Gemara now. And we'll use this Gemara to go through other sugis. Kivan she nasan tam b'chaticha, once the Chola gives tam at the Chaticha Nasas Nevela. V'yiseres kol achtichas kulam mepnei shehimina. How many halachas is he telling me here? 2 or 1? 2. What's the 2? Number 1, Chaticha Nasas Nevela, and number 2, V'yiseres shehimina. Now, the first one is not Negeya here, no? Because only Negeya fell into Ein Minoi. Because Min B'mid is never bottle anyways. Why do I care if it's Chaticha Nasas Nevela or not? Follow my question? Why do I care if it's Chaticha Nasas Nevela? It's a Min B'mid they bottle. If it fell into Einamina, if Basar that became also fell into water, it will be an Ichishim against the whole thing.
Well, because whoever said we're talking about that it's all 1 minute over here.
No, it fell in, there's a pot of meat. That's the case. Kol hachaticha is kulam. Obviously the case is you have a pot of meat, bunch of meatballs. Tipas Chola fell on one of them, right? So Rav says, this meat that became also, number 1, it's Nasa Nevela. For what? Not for today, for tomorrow. If it fell into water, yeah? Number 2, in this case, today, it's Oisa Kol hachaticha is kulam. Hipnei shemina. That's what it's mashma, correct? So it's 2 different halachas. So he's been mechadish to you Chaticha Nasas Nevela. All right? Okay. Now I have a question for you. If you turn the Gemara on the next page, the same Gemara. At the bottom. Rebbe says the same thing. Doesn't matter if you learned it or not. Rebbe says, the Tosfos says that Rav didn't know about this Braisa because he's quoting the same thing that a Braisa. Hom Rabbi Yehuda. You see? Kima Shnas and Tam B'chaticha. Find it all. Towards the bottom of the Omid. Doesn't matter if you didn't learn it. Do you all see it? The same Gemara. Tanya, Torah Rabban, I don't know what it says. What's the last one there? Tanya, Kima Shnas and Tam B'chaticha. They said it's called a Pnei She'emina. Same thing, right? Omar Rebbe. Nirin Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. B'shaloi nir. Shaloi kisa. But Divrei Chachamim b'shnir b'shaloi kisa. So Rebbe makes a compromise. He says, I like Rabbi Yehuda. It's true, all the chatichas also, if you did nothing. Okay? You did nothing. Now, I got to give you a little bit of background over here. Stam, tipas chola falls on a chaticha. We're assuming from the Mishnah, how far did the milk go?
Just the whole piece.
The whole piece, not pieces. Just one piece. How do I know? Yeah, I know, but how did Taisvis know? How did the Mishnah know? It's in the Mishnah. How do you know pshat like that? Because otherwise, if the whole pot would be shishim, it would be mutter, right? If it would go right away into the whole pot, then why do we need shishim in one piece? The whole pot should be mitzvah to shishim, right? So obviously, the Mishnah is talking about it only went into one piece. That's obvious, okay? Only went into one piece. Fine.
Again, what's this?
Because if it went into the whole pot, then why do you need shishim only in one piece? As long as the whole pot is shishim against the milk, everything should be kosher. And if there's no shishim, how much should be also? Everything, not just one piece. We're only throwing out one piece here. Let's say one piece is nice and tam, there's no shishim, so one piece is tam. So obviously, for some reason, the Mishnah is knows for a fact, that the cholav is not going past this one piece. Right? Pretty clear, right? Okay. Rebbe says, I think that if you just left that piece, now, stop, I forgot. So why is it only going into one piece? So what does Taisva say? Why is one piece isolated out of this whole kedera? What does Taisva say? Because where is it? Completely sticking out of the reitiv. You have a whole pot of liquid. You have one piece that's half in, half out. On top of that, first Taisva. On top of that, you got another piece. Okay, so it only goes into one piece. Masker, beautiful. It's obvious. You can't isolate. If tipas cholov, if a piece of cholov falls into a pot of chicken soup, are you going to say only the zucchini becomes osir? Like, what are you talking about? The whole pot becomes osir. How do you get one zucchini osir? If it fell on a zucchini that's sticking out of the reitiv completely. Yeah, that's the only way. So it must be this piece of osir sticking out of the reitiv. Okay, fine. No problem. Beautiful. Says Rebbe, and if he did nothing, suddenly all the chatichas become osir. That's what Rebbe Yehuda says. Shaloi nir, he did nothing. He didn't push it into the reitiv. He did nothing. Everything, all the chatichas, you have 1,000,000 chatichas there, it's all osir, because I hold like Rabbi Yehuda, Rav, min b'min lei bottle. That's what Rebbe said. Now go back to the Gemara, on the Omid Beis. So the Gemara doesn't make any sense to you, by the way? Does it make any sense to you? That if he did nothing, all the pieces should be osir? My loy nir v'loy kisa. Yeah, obviously it was chutz l'reitev, but also the chatchil would all be mitzvah. My, what does the Gemara say? My loy nir v'loy kisa. Read me the Gemara. What does it say? Read together with me. In English, translated, you did nothing. Mivla bola. Stop. What does that mean?
That gets absorbed, but doesn't.
What gets absorbed?
The piece that the milk
Got what? Got milk, and doesn't give out what?
Milk.
Milk. Doesn't give out milk. Okay, stop for 1 second. This is not the same mivla bola we had earlier in the Gemara by Maisa with boiling. It's all different mivla bola. Different mivla bola and flepol. When you reference stuff, kuf chazam at base. Mivla bola, mifat lepol, you have to know we're talking about whichever one you're talking about. Now we're talking about the second one. The Gemara says that if the milk, if you didn't mix, if you didn't do anything, you can't answer the other chatichas. Why? Because the milk went in, the milk doesn't go out. Why doesn't the milk go out?
This time it's boiling, right?
It's hot. Not exactly boiling, it's hot. Why does the milk not go out?
Just said it only goes out when it cools off.
Because it said that's an answer.
Well,
But as I stated in the Gemara, no, science. How do I know that? Because the Gemara said so. Yeah. It's actually a Marai writes like this. This Gemara is Ki'ilu Omar Lonu Eliyahu Anovi Zochal HaToiv. That's what he says. This Gemara is like Eliyahu Anovi, giving us a scientific nevuah. I'm telling you that if you didn't mix it, the chalav is not going to come out. It's a nevuah, it's a fact. I don't know. I mean, scientifically, I have no idea. The Gemara says if he did nothing, the milk is not going to come out. So we're going to analyze first the what and then the why. So let's analyze the what. What's the Gemara telling us? Mitzias, fact. Mivla bola mifat lepolit. If you have a piece of basar, that was belay, a drop of chalav, and you did push it into the liquid, what's not coming out? Milk. So now let's take the question differently. I have a piece of steak sitting on this table, and a drop of milk fell on it. Okay, it's boiling hot. There's no 60 in the meat. What happens to the meat? Becomes treif. And the table?
Still kosher.
Kosher. This is what the Gemara says. Mivla bola, miflat lepolit. And the Gemara agrees. You know what the Gemara answers? Yeah, you pushed it in. Loy near means you pushed it in. However, you're going to figure that out in the Gemara. Gemara says Ella, it means you taka pushed it in afterwards. Tosfos says it right at the beginning already. Has to be you pushed it into the reitiv. So it comes out, the Gemara says very clearly that if the cholav doesn't come out, it doesn't aser. Make any sense to you?
That's only if you do an action.
So, no, but the basar became nevela. Who cares if the cholav comes out or not? Isn't the basar nevela? So who cares if the cholav comes out? Is that my question? I got you. The cholav doesn't come out, but we just finished saying the whole time that the basar becomes mamish isur kuchabrichu. The Eibishter said this is what you're not allowed to eat because the cholav went in. What do I care if the cholav comes out or not?
How's it affecting something else?
The basar is treif. The basar is for sure giving tam. You all agree to me that the basar is giving taste. If you put hot basar on this table, what does the table become? If you put hot basar on this table, what does the table become? Fleischig. Obviously, right? So you're telling me that cholav went into the basar, the cholav won't go out, okay, and the basar goes out, but the basar became treif. It was fleischig, now it's treif. So the table should be treif. What does that even mean, Bechla? That's the question on the Gemara. But the fact is, the Gemara is telling us a fact. The Yoreh De'ah is telling us a fact. The Yoreh De'ah is the Gemara. The Nevuah of the Yoreh De'ah, it's a mashal, that the cholav will not come out. Which means, I'm going to give you now a klal. You need to remember this klal until the day you die. And hopefully Mashiach will come, you never die. Klal. Ein isur bolua. Hoilich mechaticha lachaticha. Eloi. Right. Very good. It's a klal. Something that was absorbed into something else, the thing that went in will never leave without reitiv. How do I know that? What's my source? This Gemara. That's the source. The Gemara says that if you didn't push it into the reitiv, the cholav will not come out. What does that tell you? That ein isur balua hoilich mechat. The fact that the blia will not go, the thing that went in the blia, the cholav or whatever it is, will not leave below reitiv. The question is, who cares? The basar became the vela. That's the question. But the fact is a fact. Klal, fact. The only one who really questions this klal is the Ran a little bit. But everybody else, it's universally, halachically accepted that a belia, in most cases, not all cases, will not leave a chaticha beloy reitiv. Which
or
means...
Or kisai, or...
No, beloy reitiv. Near kisa is reitiv. What is near kisa?
Near without the reitiv, does that...
That's not near. What'd you mix it into?
You mix it
No. Into here means... Near means into reitiv. And kisa means you covered it so the reitiv bubbled up. That's what it means. Okay? So it's a klal. Ein isur balua hoilich mechaticha lechaticha beloy reitiv. That's klal number one, which is a fact, not a halacha. I didn't tell you a halacha now. I told you a fact. The balua doesn't come out. It's still problematic api halacha because the basar we know became nevela, right? The basar became what do I care if the chalav comes out or not? Now I'm going to tell you a second klal, which is a halacha. Ein hanesar oiser. Pay attention. Ela b'mokim shayisar yatzma yochel leilech. Klal. The nesar. What's a nesar?
One that became
Became osir, not just osir, nevela. According to the mechaber or the sfardim, yeah, if isser falls into water, is the water a nesar? Really? No, you're not allowed to drink it. Because in the water you have what? Isser. A little bit of isser. That's not called a nesar. This is only a cloud if you hold chaticha nasas nevela. Even if you hold chaticha nasas nevela, I'm telling you, it's not going to affect further. In other words, the Isser is not really going to grow unless the original Isser is also going with it. Ela b'mokim sho Isser atzma yochel leilech. And the mashal that I give is a machine. Okay? Electricity or a plug cannot cut this table with a saw, right? But if you plug in a saw, what does the saw do? It gives power to the saw. But it only works if you're plugged in. If you're not plugged in, there's no power. So chaticha nasis nevela only works when the original Isser is also there. So let's say you did nir v'kisa. Take a piece of iser, heter, became osir. Yeah, some iser went in. There's no shishim, and you put it in reitiv. What's coming out? The iser and the blia, both. They're both coming out. Says the Ashkenazim. Now you need shishim against the whole thing because it's nevela. But if there's no reitiv, what's coming out? Fact, we know the from Elion, from Argumota. Not a halacha, mitzias. What's coming out? Only the heter, not the iser that's inside. So therefore, it's not nevela. It's not nevela. You follow? Chaticha nasas nevela has a limit. It comes with a limitation. It's only nevela if the oiser and the nesar, the thing that made it osir, and the thing that became osir, are together, which could only happen in reitiv, when there's liquid. When there's no liquid, Fact is, I didn't make this up, the Gemara did. The thing that's in it will not come out. That's why the Gemara says that even though the basar became nevela, if you cooked it in water, sure, now you need shishim against the whole thing. Because what's coming out of the basar and the cholav. Let's call it here cholav, right? Or if you pushed it into the roitav, what's coming out of the basar and the cholav. But if there's no roitav, you left it as is, says the Gemara, mivla bala, take absorbed the milk, but miflat loipolad, it's not giving out any milk. It's not giving out milk, no problem. So again, if I have a piece of basar on the table and cholav fell onto it, and it's no roitav, wasn't it at the table, it became fleishik. That's it, not treif. The meat you can't eat, because the meat has in it cholav. There's no way you could get the milk completely out. The milk, the meat is always going to stay usher. But the thing that it touched, now if you would be able to get the milk out, would it be the meat become mutter? Sure. As long as there's no milk there, you can't. So practically speaking, this halacha, that if you get it out completely, which is also known as efshar l'soichtoi, is only practical for something else, because in itself you can't get it out. But the gav is something else. When I know that the isur is not going, how do I know? What case do I know the isur is not going? Only one case. Very good. It's the only case. No problem. Ein hanes. So there's two things. There's the mitzias, ein isur balua heilich mechaticha lechaticha b'leiroitiv, which is the fact that the balua doesn't go. The question is, who cares? It's nas and nevela, right? But Basar Bechalav or shari sudim according to Rabbeinu Tam. Why doesn't it not aser weiter? Answer is because there's a klal. Ein hanes isur ela b'mokim sho isur atzma yochal leilich. From now on, it's going to take you time until this becomes one with you. Ein hanes chulu. I don't even have to say what it is. Ein hanes chulu. Okay, chulu. It means the oyster, the neser needs the oyster to go, like the machine.
Well, so what's the difference between the two things?
No, one is a mitzias, one is a halacha. The first one just tells me the fact that the oyster doesn't go below roitiv. That's not going to cut it. That doesn't tell you why it's mutter. It's tas and avela. Why should it be mutter? So I have to tell you the second klal that it's not completely nas and avela. Nas and avela is only when the oyster is going. If the oyster is not going, there's no avela. Doesn't nasa. You don't need shishim against the whole thing.
And it only goes with when there's right.
Well, that's the mitzias. That's the first klal. The first klal is that the oyster only goes when there's roitiv.
Is about how you're going to affect another piece?
Well, we didn't get to yet. This is the first klal now. Okay? This is in contradiction to previous Gemara. We're going to get there soon about this, okay?
So what was the second part?
Ein haneser oyser. This is halacha. Ela b'mokum shisa atzmi yochal leilich. Only if the original isser is also going, which happens to be only bereitiv. Because if there's no bereitiv, it actually doesn't go. So there's no problem. So you can't eat the piece. So I ask you a question. If you cook treif with a potato, and the potato is here, can I eat the potato if there's no shishim? No. Menatayra, according to Tosfos, no. But it's nasan avela midrabanan. So if it fell into soup, what do I need shishim against? But if it fell on the table, what do I need shishim against? Nothing. Because the oyster is not going. You need nothing. Everything's kosher. If the potato fell boiling hot onto something else, touched another potato, below roitiv, this potato touched one potato, say to the other potato, well, touch one potato to the other potato. How much is it aser below roitiv? 0. The oyster is not going. Eskis and teret, you can eat it, no problem. Fell into liquid, suddenly what's coming out? The oyster and the neser. Now, if you hold like the Ashkenazim, you need shishim against the whole potato. If you hold like the tzvardim, you need shishim against only the isser that's inside it anyway. This is the klolim that we're going to do today. There might be a shiur tomorrow or Sunday to continue. Or sometime next week. Here's the mitzvahs. Told you. Good stuff.